Hello and welcome to everyone. If you can all now turn off your cameras and put your microphones on mute, that would be ideal. If you look across the bar on the centre of your screen, you'll see one which says conversations. So if you can open the meeting chat on the right-hand side, that would be really helpful. If you wish to speak throughout the meeting, if you can indicate in there, that would be ideal. I will try to keep on top of anyone who wishes to speak in an order and try to call you in an orderly fashion. So welcome everyone to this September edition of Standards and Constitutional Oversight Committee. It seems like a long time since we last met formally. In fact, it was the 25th of February was the last meeting. Obviously, all of our lives have been extremely disrupted by COVID-19 and the world is now a different place. Behind the scenes, there has actually still been work moving apace, particularly work around the coming up with a draft constitution, which we will be talking about later on item 5, so that it can enable us to have a working constitution ready to change to the committee system, which will be happening in just a couple of weeks' time now. I'd like to pay tribute really to all of the hard work. We've done this before, but I'd like to say it again. All the hard work from officers and members, particularly the working group, and from the officer side, particularly Phil, Vicky, and the rest of the team, Steve, etc. I don't want to go through everyone, but thank you for all your support during this, what has been 16 months of hard work. And there were some people who said it couldn't be done. There were people who were saying it could cost upwards or between 70 up to £250,000, and I would suggest that when we finally analyse how much it actually did cost and has cost to change over to the committee system, it will be a fraction of the lower figure, I would suggest. And it's not. It would be remiss of me not to note that we have been fortunate to recognise the fact that Phil McCosh has brought certain skills with him, having worked on constitutions elsewhere and writing constitutions for other people. We've been very fortunate in having him as our Director of Governance and Law this time round at this time, when we've looked at such a radical change and an overhaul to the constitution. It was needed anyway. It's been recognised that it was not fit for purpose in the past, and I think it was a good time to look at overhauling it. But whilst we were doing that, clearly we've looked at and we are now delivering a complete and total governance change. So it's been a hard slog on some level. Ridiculously, COVID actually did us a favour because it gave us 4 more months to actually, well, it would have been May, we would have been adopting it, so it's roughly 4 months. We've had extra time to review the decisions that we've made within the working group, and hopefully we're going to have what looks to be a robust constitution, which will help us deliver and work in a sensible and meaningful fashion as we move to our committee system. Well, thank you very much, and just bear with me. So item 2 on the agenda this evening is members' code of conduct. Members are asked to consider if they have any disclosable pecuniary interests in any of the items here this evening. Members, anyone? No. Okay. No disclosable pecuniary interests. Item 3, which is to approve the accuracy of the minutes from the Standards and Constitutional Oversight Committee held on the 25th of Feb 2020. I'm sure you've all had sight of these now. I've not been inundated with emails from Councillor Gilchrist about inaccuracies within the minutes, so and I've not been able to spot anything myself. So has anyone any other comments on the minutes? Okay. Are we all happy to agree the minutes?
Can I ask that members formally assent, and we can use that at the same time as a roll call?
Okay.
Make sure everyone's IT is working.
Okay. Sorry, Vicky, I did jump the gun after saying we were going to do a roll call and didn't.
That's fine. So considering you've proposed it, Chair, as I go through, if someone would care to second the minutes, but if I ask members to turn the camera on and then speak to confirm their name, because obviously there's, for members of the public, there's a short delay between cameras coming on and switching on as their voice activated. So Councillor Cooke.
Yeah, present and correct.
Thank you. Councillor Gilchrist.
Yeah, good evening. Present and correct, thank you.
Councillor Hayes.
Yes, I'm here and I'll also second that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you. Yes, I'm here and happy to agree the minutes.
Councillor Stuart.
Hi, Councillor Stuart. I'm here and agree the minutes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, hi, I'm here. I can't agree the minutes because I wasn't at the last meeting. Sorry.
Councillor Wood.
Yes, I'm here. I'm happy to agree the minutes.
Thank you, members. And just for completeness as a roll call, Mr. McCosh, who is our independent member.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. McCosh. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Phil. So I think the minutes have agreed. I think the plan is for they to be emailed to myself and I will sign them with a electronic signature and return them. So that concludes item 3. Item 4, committee system work plan update. Okay, I think it's Phil and then Mike, I believe.
Yes, Chair. So this is just an opportunity for you as the committee, and of course you'll be the final committee before annual meeting when the committee system will go live, just to look under the bonnet, as it were, and see what we've been up to. You'll see that there's a covering report over the 6 work streams I mentioned, and added to that are the various Gantt charts.
Okay.
Mr. Kerr, would you care to turn your camera off if that's possible, please? But thank you.
Camera turned off.
Please. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Good to know it's working. That's
Yes.
so, members, you can see that there. We wanted to let you know where we got to in all of that. We are at a point where we have been through a process of training. We were assisted by the LGA, the Centre for Public Scrutiny and a consultant associated with them, and then a further specialist, a former law firm partner and monitoring officer who's assisted officers in running, continuing to run workshops on working with this system, who has been extremely helpful. We have employed people to proofread and go through the Constitution to be able to check that we've got things as they are. We are now at a stage where we feel the support for report writers is almost there. We've got continuing meetings with group leaders to discuss the final parts of political balance, chairs, placements, and then we are into the committee system post-September, and obviously we can pick up those discussions in the next report, but this is about where we've got to in terms of project planning and your review of how we got there. Chair.
Thank you, Phil. I've got Moira wants to come in a moment. If I can just say open by saying it was quite a comprehensive plan, and the timing chart which I kept pushing for and you delivered, there were many facets to it, and we have actually delivered it effectively on time and in full. So great work to all officers on the delivery on that. Looking at the contents of the timing chart there, we're nearly at the end, and one of the last couple of things is obviously now the depending on what happens with item 5, is a leaders meeting and then actually delivering the constitution to full council for a vote. But beyond that, what's the plan moving forward? Because clearly there's still going to be support needed for officers who are going to be report writers. Certainly around officers who perhaps, and I have mentioned this before, who will be maybe coming to committees or expected to come to committees and it's not being part of their remit before, or maybe something that they're not used to doing. Is that something that there'll still be ongoing support for?
Absolutely, Chair. This is something that Steve and his team have been working very hard at because we've been aware that actually in the past some of the services that we've provided have been a little postbox-like and now into a different world and a different regime in terms of assisting our colleagues in appearing before committees as opposed to just running briefings and writing reports. So we have been running training sessions on report writing and why reports look like the way they do, and at some point I'd like to repeat that for members as well, because it became apparent that when we ask some things about a report and we say why isn't X in there, and then the penny drops that actually we've never assisted people with knowing how to put a report together and how to present a report. And so we've been working quite hard in the background to provide that support. So there is now a dedicated intranet set of pages and videos on this sort of stuff. There is a report writers support group, so that when somebody writes a report, they get an opportunity to sit before colleagues from other departments and governance officers to make their pitch and practice what they would say before the committee, before it goes through their directorate management team for sign off, and then to the senior leadership team for sign off before going before the committee in terms of agenda setting and briefing. As you know, before each committee, there are be 2 briefing sessions for the chairs and group spokes, one on briefing on the areas that the committee is concerned with, from the directors, and then the agenda setting and briefing for the forthcoming committee, and directors will start to bring people who will be regularly appearing before committees with them for that. We also have employed a trainer to run a series of sessions with each directorate on political working, political administration, and presenting before committees, who's someone we've brought in. She's already run that training with SLT and with CMT, the corporate management tier, and then actually we'll be going a step further and going out to the directorates and doing quite small groups. So we do have what we think of as quite a comprehensive training and support package going forward, and part of the restructure ready for this that Steve's put in place are named business partners from Democratic Services who will attend directorate management teams to talk through agendas and agenda preparation. So we feel we've got in a place as close as we can get to go live, bar the fingers crossed part, of course.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks for that. I've got Councillor McLaughlin would like to come in, and then Councillor Gilchrist.
Yes, thanks. It's Councillor McLaughlin. I really just want to echo your comments at the beginning of the meeting, Chair, about the amount of work that's gone into this by the whole committee, by the working party, which has been intense, but it has been highly cooperative, and especially the officers who have gone away and kept absolutely rigidly to their plan and their timescale. And I think it is a massive achievement that we've got to this point now. And I firmly believe that it will bring about a system which produces better decision making and greater sense of accountability from the council. And that is important. It's particularly important at this time because we've got 5 parties represented on the council with no one party with overall control. And in the past, that has been a recipe for confusion and chaos. And I don't believe that will happen under this new system. I think it will lead to a much better sense of us all working together for the good of residents of the borough. And we do need to develop a new set of skills to be able to do that. But we are being well assisted. So it's just a thank you, really, and a recognition of the work that's been done to get at this point, and a thank you to all those involved.
Super, thank you, Moira. Councillor Gilchrist.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think I got the camera on. Yes, it's been an intense period over a longer time than we might have envisaged, but it has given us the time to work things out in detail. If anything, it's a fresh start because without putting too great a title on it, it really is a new era for us as a local authority. I'm very conscious that around the country at the moment, there are proposals for merging councils to create huge new unitary authorities. And I hope that some of those new bodies that are being introduced for what's said to be grounds of efficiency and mergers across the country, I hope some of them will look at the way we have done this, because I think there will be in other parts of the country now a democratic deficit. And that was the whole purpose of us starting on this process. Two comments I made really on the service redesign bit in section 312, and that is that I'm hopeful that there would be an easily accessible guide for members of the public about our new system, so that there'll be a chapter on our web pages so people can, our citizens can see what we've done and how things will work. And that as the system beds down, not just those people that Mr. McCourt mentioned about the link with officers and senior leadership teams and members, but there would be clear directions for all members of the council to know who is the clerk, as it used to be called, to any of the committees, so that there are clear links for members so they can follow up business as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. I mean, one of the things that I know we spoke about at length, and also at the all-member workshops, was having directorate titles and business areas that actually meant something, and the same with the committee names. And I think we worked long and hard to actually have them aligned in some way, shape, or form. There will be overlap for certain directorate responsibilities, as we've spoken about again before, and I think it might come up again shortly. But yeah, I think that it will, in my opinion, it will be much more transparent to the general public and much more easy to digest what different committees actually do, because some of the scrutiny committees and the names were neither in or there. It was very difficult to understand exactly what, unless you read the terms of reference, what they were actually meant to do. And I think we've actually delivered something that will be much more clear to the general public, if I'm honest. Any other comments from any other members? No, thank you very much. Okay, are we, just bear with me 1 second. Are we okay, Phil, to agree that by assent, or do we need a roll call? And it
can be by assent, Chair, but Councillor Cooke has asked to speak.
Oh, so my apologies, Councillor Cooke. Is that? Oh, so you put your hand up, that's why.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, the old school way instead of
the wrong way, out of habit.
That's okay.
Putting my hand up like a teacher and pupil at the same time. Yeah. So I just want very briefly, to say, as probably the newest elected member, I have to say I was most impressed by the collaborative approach, which is one of the principles we've been striving to achieve, in this whole redesigning process of the governance structure. So I really just wanted to say that, and thanks. It's a very complicated area of concern, this whole aspect of governance, and I think it's been made that much more easier for me to learn about how the council works currently and how it will work in the future, through the sort of friendly collaborative approach of all the different members from the different political groups. I'd just like to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. I think, again, we've said before, we're all going to have political spats, is how I would put it, but I think we have proven during this process over the last 16 months that we are capable of actually working as adults and together for the greater good of the people of Wirral, and long may it continue. So if I can then, the recommendation is to note the report and the steps that have been taken for the change in constitutional arrangements from annual council on the 28th of September. Are we all agreed? How can we do this?
Chair, your choice. Either because it's to note, you can go by assent, or you can ask for a roll call.
If everyone is agreed, then we will take it as agreed. Anyone else speak out now, and we'll take that as assent. If not, okay, I will take that as agreed then. So the next item on the agenda is item 5, which is the pièce de résistance, the one we've been waiting for, the new draft council constitution. Again, I don't want to go over too much on why this is being brought this evening, but obviously back in May 2019, we were told to go away and look at coming up with a structure for the committee system. That was done. It was voted unanimously in October 2019 that we would go to the committee system, and then we were then told to come up with a workable constitution. As I just said in my opening remarks, it was a good time to actually review the constitution anyway. It was deemed not fit for purpose. We've now got said constitution. The ones, people out there who are eagle-eyed will see that there's a section missing. That is the independent remuneration panel's report, but that doesn't come to us, that goes direct to council on the 28th. Yeah, the report is there, which basically is the full, every document that constitutes the constitution, for want of a better turn of phrase. Phil, would you like to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for your kind comments earlier. I know it's at times may not have cost a huge amount of money, but certainly perhaps edging to the sanity of some of us. And Steve and the team, the scrutiny officers coming across, building the new team, and of course Vicky and Mike Callan as our project manager, who's the person who came up with those Gantt charts and kept us all to credit. And project managers often don't, as they stand in the background, don't often come to the fore and get their thanks. So that's mine to him publicly. Members, I don't need for you to go back over the ground, but you had a governance review last year. You asked us to put together a constitution and voted that as of the next annual meeting, you will move into a committee system. That annual meeting, of course, has been delayed from May until the 28th of September due to the cancellation of elections and remote meetings to enable us to deal with the pandemic that's still occurring. When you set us on this task and the member working group, what was behind it was 5 principles. So that's accountability, the responsibilities that an accountability should be clear to the council and to the residents, and thus Councillor Gilchrist's extra comment a moment ago. The credibility, so early and proper scrutiny built into the process, as well as the formal statutory overview and scrutiny. Transparency, so that more is open to the public as far as possible. Collaboration being absolutely key, built into the system, so that, as you heard me say earlier, you've set it up so that this is chairs and group spokes putting things together, so it's as far as possible collaborative across the parties, and obviously the political differences being made clear and coming out in committees. And then timeliness, so balancing that speed with as much efficiency as possible. What then came out is a committee structure of 7 policy committees, so policy and resources committees, and 6 further policy and service committees, together with all of the committees that are there to support. We have, when completed, will tip over into the 500 pages, and bedtime reading for anyone who may struggle with insomnia. It's there. It will be as best as we can. We've split that up into what I hope are obvious places to go to and to be as plain English as we can make. But of course, given the speed and size, and certainly the size, there will always be things that pop out and corrections to be made. And as you can see in the report, there are some areas that have been lifted and shifted and await your further review as part of your successor committee's work plan. In particular, things like the code of conduct, the contract standing order rules, appointments to outside bodies, which could do with a little shifting into their various places. So there's quite a bit of work still to do, but all of that is workable, and therefore things that didn't have to be changed and things that it was inappropriate to change at that kind of pace without proper thinking and work has been lifted and shifted, and all those things that required attention, I believe, got it, and other areas just needed tinkering with to make it fit within the new system, and of course filling in some of the gaps that were in our old constitution, or rather our current constitutions. There were quite a few gaps that needed filling. All of that said, members and officers, even since printing this, have pointed out some errors and omissions, and so with your permission, Chair, what I'd like to do is amend the recommendation for you today that members may wish to propose, and that is the recommendation as printed, but that recommendation is subject to the amendment of Part 3B of the Constitution to clarify, firstly, that the standing subcommittee numbers of a minimum expectation are not set, that the local plan steering subcommittee is time limited and will be dissolved on the adoption of the local plan currently in development, that the Environment, Climate and Emergency Transport Committee is responsible for air quality issues, that the Housing Committee is responsible for the authority's relationship with registered providers, and then B, to include that the Adult Social Care and Public Health Committee responsibility for preventative services also covers responsive services and includes those services concerning domestic violence. And then lastly, to include the terms of reference for the Joint Governance Committee of the Northern Local Government Pension Scheme Investment Pool, which is something that came into effect this year, and forgive me, I left it out. And given that there's those kind of things, with your indulgence, once the Constitution is adopted, there is something in there that says I can make minor alterations to bring it up to speed with changes in responsibilities and the law, but there's nothing between here and the adoption before it goes to print for adoption at full council. So I would ask that's also subject to the inclusion of any further amendments prior to its adoption by council that the monitoring officer considers will correct errors, omissions, or will otherwise aid in the draft constitution's future operation. And clearly, if I make anything other than crossing T's and dotting I's, I'll let the members of the working group know what I'm doing, so that there's clear sight of any amendments that are required between now and then. I don't envisage any beyond, as I say, typographical corrections, but if something falls out of the group leaders' discussions and it's something that we've missed, then it will be remiss of us not to have the opportunity to put things right. Chair.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, that would be ideal. Clearly, if it is anything bit further than just errors and dotting I's, crossing T's, so forth. Yeah, if the members of the working group can just have sight of that, that would be ideal. I mean, we've only got what, 18 days left now until the full council meeting anyway, when hopefully it will be adopted at that meeting. So yeah, anything untoward that you find that you believe needs amending, please let us know. Other than that, I personally can't see an issue with that. I'd just like to start by saying, before I open it up to members, I can't see anything, and a couple of people may have seen, you all may have seen my email yesterday with regards to these amendments that have been put forward by Councillor Leach, most of it is just errors. However, the adult social services one did seem to kick up quite a stink. I don't particularly wish to get into a slanging match about this tonight. It currently needs to sit somewhere with regards to domestic violence. I'm in agreement with quite a few members that I believe adult social services, that particular committee is the best place for it to sit. I can see the arguments for people who are mentioning child services and the effects upon children, of course, that goes without saying. But it won't always be the case that there are children involved. So for me, it makes perfect sense for it to sit with adults. What I will say, and this will become, I think, commonplace as we go forward into the committee system. There is absolutely no reason why the Children's Services Committee cannot make recommendations to be reviewed by the adult committee with regards to child safety around domestic violence. I think it should be actively encouraged that if they believe there's something they can add, it should be submitted to the other committee. There needs to be someone has just turned the microphone on and sneezing. There needs to be a committee, a singular committee with a direct responsibility for that. So that I saw that Moira mentioned in one of her emails last night, that things do not fall down the cracks, and that goes for any functional area within the council. Yes, there will be numerous. There could be numerous committees that wish to have a say and wish to have some input, but there needs to be a single committee with oversight and responsibility for it, and I believe adults is the right place for it. I'm happy to open that up to members. Anyone, any comment? Oh, sorry, Councillor Janette Williamson first.
Thanks, Chair. It was just to reiterate what you said there. I mean, I am a previous pledge champion for domestic abuse. So I do agree totally. I think that it is cross-cutting, absolutely. And I want to just put on record my thanks to Elizabeth Hartley for the fantastic work she's done on our domestic abuse strategy, and I'm sure that we're all going to pass our thanks on to it, and I've no wish to see her not continue in that role. But I think, as you said there, Chair, that victims doesn't always involve children, but it always does involve adults, and our services are aimed at adults, whether it's perpetrators or the victims. And we've also got our current, who will be our chair of adults, is currently our pledge champion. So I think that's quite a good fit, but also in mind that it will be cross-cutting, and both children's and adults committees, I have an expectation that they will be working together on this, but it makes sense to have it just sitting in the one committee. Thanks for that, Chair.
Thank you, Janette. Would anyone else like to come in at this point? Councillor Gilchrist is quickly tapping away and wishing to... Yes, Councillor Gilchrist.
Yeah, yes, I, of course, have served on the improvement board for Children's Services for 3 years, and I'm sadly well acquainted with some of the pressures on families and the risks to children. But we also, as a member of the previous adult committee, received reports there. So I would suggest that were there any issues that are cross-cutting, we get the chairs together and spokes together of the various committees, so that if there are concerns, they can be worked through in a collegiate way.
A fantastic suggestion, Councillor Gilchrist, and I'm sure that's exactly what will take place. Just to say, I do understand different members' concerns about where it should sit, etc. But I believe that's exactly what will happen going forward. Moira, would like to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Actually, I thought we'd achieved a consensus in the exchanges yesterday. Absolutely, there's no intention here to compartmentalise a service. I absolutely agree that we do need some mechanism for recognising the very negative impact that domestic violence has on children who witness it or who are actually involved in it. But there has to be a parent committee. There has to be one committee that has responsibility for the budget, and that is in my opinion, most properly accommodated in adults, but with that level of cooperation that's been talked about by Janette and Phil Gilchrist across. And also, I think another councillor did say there's an area here of involvement for community safety, and that's true too. So you could devolve too much of this away, but there does need to be one responsible committee, and I do believe that should be adults.
Thank you, Moira. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Cooke, Chris.
Yes, just very briefly. I mean, I took part, as most members here did, in the email discussion about this issue of where, domestic abuse, domestic violence which committee it should lie in. And although marginally my preference would have been for it to, I think, remain in the Children's Committee, because it was in the Children and Families last year. I think the key thing is that it's not forgotten. It will never be out of sight, especially given the discussion that went on yesterday. I can't imagine any councillors, either on the Adults or the Children's Committee, allowing this to fall out of sight. So I'll just end on that. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. If there's no one else who wishes to come in, then Phil, I'm going to suggest that we actually have a roll call for this one, seeing as the severity of the actual vote and what it actually means, if that's okay with yourself. The recommendation is that the committee recommends to council for adoption the draft revised constitution at the annual council meeting to be held on the 28th of September 2020. So I'm going to suggest that we, hang on, we've got another comment first. Janette.
Thanks, Chair. No, it was just to say what's really heartening about this debate is how seriously everyone in this meeting and across the council take domestic abuse and violence. And we all know that it's increased horrendously under lockdown and COVID. And I think for me that the fact that we're all debating where it should sit shows our strength of feeling around it. So I just wanted to say a big thank you really to everyone that's taken part in this debate. The fact that we're talking about it to the extent that we are shows a real commitment from our council, doesn't it? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that, Janette. I think, literally the input that we've had from members around the terms of reference in general shows the concern about the residents of Wirral, but also ensuring that Wirral Council can operate in its best possible manner. And I think that's been a thread throughout the whole of this process, to be fair. Okay, so where was I?
Chair, you were looking to propose and find a seconder for the recommendation on the report, and presumably also including the amended recommendation as I tabled orally.
So yeah, I will propose I will propose the recommendation over the draft revised constitution with the tabled amendments as outlined by Mr. McCosh. Do I have a seconder? Phil, numerous seconder. I'll take the first one. Moira, Councillor McLaughlin is the seconder. Okay, and yeah, we need to go to a vote then. So I think due to the gravity, we should actually have a roll call, I would say.
Thank you, Chair. So members, if you would care to turn on your camera and state whether you are voting for, against or abstaining. So Councillor Cooke.
For.
Councillor Cox.
For.
Councillor Gilchrist.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor McLaughlin.
For.
Councillor Stuart.
Sorry, for some IT issues, sorry.
Councillor Williamson.
For.
And Councillor Wood.
For.
Thank you, members. That's unanimous. The recommendation will go forward to full council.
Fantastic. Well, that is actually the last item on the agenda. Any other business-wise, I've got a couple of things. Firstly, I'd like to anyone that believes they are not going to be on this committee going forward. Can you please ensure that anyone who is going to be on this committee understands that we will be voting for a new chair next year? If they wish to put their names forward, can they please have a think about that? One of my last, I mentioned in the working group the other day, one of my last actions as chair for this municipal year or half year, depending on how you look at it. I'm going to try to organise a working group so we can look at exactly what what tasks we wish to look into over the next 6 months till the end of this municipal year. Phil just mentioned some of the things before that I'd already jotted, actually, code of conduct, etc. But clearly a review of how workable and the committee system is proven to be under with this constitution. So that's clearly something we'll be looking into. And at that meeting, it might be worthwhile any spokes indicating who would like to actually put the name forward as chair. Perhaps we can even have a discussion about it. It might be helpful. Other than that, I would like to just put on record again my sincere thanks to everyone for your support during this 16 months I've been chairing this committee. It's been an interesting time. We have shown that we can work together. One last comment, a bit more on a jovial level. Thank you, special thank you to one person who I know is not going to be on the committee next year. Against all odds, we've shown that we could work very well and very closely together. And in my first full council meeting during her time as mayor, I was shouted at, told to sit down and told to retract the statement. So we didn't exactly get off on the right foot. But thank you very much to Councillor McLaughlin for her support and help during this time, this 16 months. I know she's been on this committee for a long time, and the help of all of the members is really appreciated. But Moira in particular, thank you very much for your support. It's been a pleasure working with you on this committee. And if no one else has got anything else to say, I think we're...
I have got a comment, if you don't mind, because I would just like to correct you on the way I dealt with your appalling you first joined the council. However, we've moved on quite a lot since then. And I would like to thank you for the work that you've done as chair. Having said that, I won't be on the committee. It's all very fluid still at the moment, but I think it won't be a committee I'll be on next year. I have enjoyed serving on it. I think we've achieved a lot, but actually under your chair, we've achieved more than been achieved for the rest of the time I've been on the council through this committee, I think. So thanks to you and other members of the committee. It's always been a pleasure to work with other members, and it has been on this piece of work, and also for the officers. Can't say I definitely won't be with you next year because I'm not quite sure yet, but certainly I appreciate the work you've done this year.
Thanks, Moira. Praise indeed. Thank you very much.
And I'm glad you learned from the correction you got when you first joined the council.
I think I'm still as gobby, Moira, but I've just toned it down a little bit. But anyway, thank you to everyone. Thank you to our independent members who joined us this evening as well. I'll be in touch with some dates for a working group after the full council meeting, hopefully when the constitution is adopted. And thank you to everyone. If no one else has anything else, I will draw the meeting to a